Hello and welcome to the FullStackDev tutorial series. In this video, we'll be discussing the back-end setup and configuration. In a previous video, we began building the front-end structure, tools, and utilities to power the React front end. We made a simple context manager, created a reusable button, and a reusable input. We created a reusable form and set up the REST class so that we can send requests and handle responses from the back end. We also added the navigation bar. In the navigation bar component, we introduced the logout function, which is the first instance in which we make a request to the back end. Obviously, at this time, we don't have a back end to make a request to. So let's change that. We'll be working out of the server directory for most of this video. Inside that directory, the first thing we'll do is create a config.py file. Before we populate this file, let's go back to the .environment file. Notice under the Redis entry, we have an environment variable called cache Redis password. Since we won't be using our Redis server for caching, let's fix this to align with the variable's actual intended function, which will be for fast session lookups. I'll add another variable here called session Redis password so that this makes more sense. And to be consistent, let's change the variable in our Docker Compose file as well. While we're here, we can also change the React placeholder default for the test database to match the FullStackDev project title. We're almost ready to set up our Flask server configuration, but there's one more thing we need to do first. Let's go ahead and install the required Python packages. We'll want to create a requirements.txt file, and then we'll add the entries for the packages we'll be using. Now in our terminal, let's activate our virtual environment. For the next steps, we'll need to change into the server directory. It's also a good idea to upgrade pip when beginning a new project. When that's good, we'll install from the requirements.txt file. Looks like the installation went smoothly. Now we can create our Flask server configuration. Having a reference to the project base directory always comes in handy. The base config function will be consumed by our application factory, which we haven't created yet when the server launches. The config class will define our application default configuration. The pro config, dev config, and test config classes will override some of these settings depending on the type of environment the application is running in. This way, all of our application configuration can be tweaked here in one location. In the server directory, let's create the button directory for a place to house the server mods. And within, we'll make an init.py file. We'll be adding error handlers and some external commands shortly, but for now we'll configure the app with everything we'll need to build the Flask backend using the application factory pattern. Next up, in the server root directory, we can create the app.py file. Now that we have defined how the application will be created, depending on the environment, we can choose to run the development server or the production waitress WSGI server. We want to be able to run the Flask server now, but when we try to run the yarn run Flask script, we get a key error for the SMTP password key, which is missing from the .environment file. After adding this entry to .env, the Flask server should start properly now. Excellent. We have a waitress and a bartender serving up Flask. All semantic puns intended. But since we're in development config mode, our Flask server is being run with the development server, and our debugger is enabled. This is exactly what we want for now. We're ready to begin some modeling for our database. Let's start by creating a schema for the user and user authorization process. Within an auth directory, we'll place a schemas.py file. Let's also initialize the auth package for good measure. In schemas.py, we'll define some basic validation requirements. Before creating the user models, I want to base an API class for the models to use. In the server directory, we'll create the API directory and a studio API.py file. Here, we'll create the base API class and the corresponding extended studio API class. This is a simple, explicit declaration of our CRUD API. You can default these to suit your project needs. We'll want to add an init.py here as well. Now we can build some auth read-write methods for the auth model. In the auth directory, let's create auth API.py. Then we'll add some methods to create, read, and delete the auth resource. This looks like everything we need to create our user auth model. In the auth folder, let's create models.py. We'll create the auth user model and its defining attributes. And finally, we'll include the validate and API function built-ins. We're almost ready to build our request routes, but we'll need a way to handle requests. In the server directory, we'll create an endpoint directory with a studio endpoint.py file and an init.py. Also inside the endpoint directory, we'll create a response directory, which will house studio response.py and an init.py. Next, back in the server directory, we'll create a folder named dev to organize some of our server management tools. And for now, we'll add a dev.jwt.py file and a dev session file. In the session.py file, we'll create some methods for server-side session handling. You might be used to other frameworks or extensions that handle this for you. And by all means feel free to sub in your preferred method, but I prefer a more granular control of JWT management. Our Flask session info is kept in the Redis session store. While the session is valid, we'll distribute short-lived web tokens to the browser, which we'll require for access to specific routes. We're also providing a util to display JWT by our status on server reset. In Studio Response, we'll set up a reusable Studio Response class. And with these additions, we have everything we need to handle incoming requests and return responses. The Flash and Toast notifications are also ready to go. We're ready to configure the auth endpoints. In the auth directory, we'll create auth-endpoint.py. The first thing we'll need here will be the sign up, sign in, and sign out functions, which we'll code in the next video. Finally, we'll create route.py, and within we'll assign the corresponding endpoint routing. Notice the endpoint parameter, in combination with the API prefix, will eliminate the need for blueprints, allowing for us to cut out that additional configuration, making for much simpler project management. We will, however, have to register our new routes with the app factory. Earlier, in Bartend, init.py, we left a couple functions commented because we didn't have the required classes to implement them yet. In the Bartend directory, let's create factory.py. Here we'll create the Easy Blueprints function, and some default functionality for handling errors related to unauthorized web tokens that will prompt the user to sign in again. As always, you can customize this behavior to your liking. Now in init.py we can bring in our factory functions and configure the app with the default error handlers and register the routes and models. The trick with registering the routes is that it needs to be the last instruction given to app initialization. And with that, it looks like we have built the basics for everything we need to make requests to our Flask server and return and useful data back to the React front end. I believe this is a good place to end this video. In the next video, we'll tie it all together by making our first requests and utilizing our new sign in, sign up, and sign out routes. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing everything we've built in action. As always, thank you for watching the FullStackDev tutorial video series. If you have found these videos helpful in any way, please like and subscribe to the channel. See you again soon.